I have been accused of being a pyro more times than I can remember. I've heard it from people that I run into on the street and don't know, from people who I've just met, and from people that know me really well. I've even been accused of being a pyro by firemen and policemen. And it's true, I love exploding gunpowder, but I do it with purpose. I've not always been an artistic pyro, though. I started with a pencil and an eraser. I had absolute, complete control over what I was creating. And I went from that to sandwiching gunpowder and fireworks between two pieces of paper and exploding it to create art like this. And art like this, which was done with over 50 explosions of various sizes and techniques. And the last 8-ish years has been a really interesting journey of courage for me. I've not needed courage to work with explosives, that's the easy part. I've needed the courage to let go of controlling the outcome of what I'm creating. And I found that the more comfortable I get with making mistakes, and the more I cultivate my curiosity, the more my creativity and my courage expand. I've also come to believe that we are all creative. That means each and every one of you are also creative. And perhaps if we don't feel creative, we just need to rekindle our curiosity and perhaps let go of a little bit, maybe a little bit of control. And I'd like to share my story to explain how I came about this idea. As a kid, I was always curious. I wanted to know how things worked and why they didn't work, and I loved to create things and draw. And yeah, my brother and I tore apart lots of fireworks to see what was inside them and see what else we could do with them. Fast forward to age 53. A couple people saw some of the drawings that I had done and said, KJ, you really should do something with this. And I decided, yeah, it's about time I have the courage to explore that possibility. And I discovered the Montana Entrepreneur Program. It was an easy and comfortable way for me to start learning about an art career. And as I started developing my drawing skills, my curiosity began to get engaged again. And I began to ask questions such as, how can I describe a very diverse landscape in a really small piece of art? How can I also say, stop for a moment and look closely, because there's really more to this place than first meets the eye. And about 2 years into this journey, I was accepted into the Out West Art Show. It's a big annual show, and I was so excited, but I was afraid to even tell anyone because I thought that my acceptance notification was an accident and I really wasn't part of this show. But I also started looking at what else can I do with this art venture. And because I really enjoy teaching, I started teaching drawing classes, and I developed a line of coloring cards. These drawings were done specifically to give you a level of confidence when you're learning a new drawing skill. And the one thing that I heard constantly, and still hear, whether I'm showing art or demonstrating or teaching, I'm not creative at all. I don't have an artistic bone in my body. How many of you have said or thought that at one time? All of us probably have at one time or another. Well, to that, I would like to suggest for you to consider art and creativity are far more than a professional painting hanging on the wall, a sculpture, a stage performance, or a music score. Art and creativity also come in the forms of athletic activities, writing code, cooking, doing research, crafting a sales pitch, even something as seemingly simple as walking with elegant posture can be artistic. And I guarantee you are more creative than you may give yourself credit for. One of my absolute favorite examples, we had done a coloring card workshop, Everyone's art was laid out on the table, and one of the gals walked over and said, "That's beautiful. Who did that?" I looked at her kind of quizzically and said, "You did." "I didn't do that. It's beautiful." Well, in fact, she had done that. And that was such a beautiful reminder for me and for everyone that's listening to this. When we have a comfortable way to challenge what we think we're capable of, how often do we really surprise ourselves? Well, about at the 3.5-year mark of my art journey, I had to ask myself those tough business-related questions, and I didn't like where it pointed. It was saying, you really need to pause and reevaluate what you're doing. And that was really hard. But not long after that, my art world exploded into creativity. I had discovered the artwork of Cy Ko-Chang. He's a master gunpowder artist, and I had to try this. Well, because I shoot USPSA competition, I had gunpowder. I ran down to my basement, I got gunpowder into my studio, I got paper, I grabbed the fire extinguisher on the way out the door, and that afternoon, I fell in love with gunpowder as an art process. And the more I played, the more I learned. And the more my curiosity got engaged. And I began to understand how to ask those how could, what if, and why did questions, specifically related to my art medium. And they went something like this. Why is that area so much darker? Well, if that area is like that and it moves like this, perhaps I could use something else to show definitive shapes. And I grabbed maple leaves and grasses out of my yard. And that seemed to work pretty well. And then I saw, I've got tulips. Let's try those tulips. And I saw a butterfly go by. I did not use a real butterfly. I cut out a paper template for the butterfly. And on a whim, I entered a piece of art into the Montana Miniature Show. And it was accepted. And my thought process went kind of like this. I have a piece of art in this show? There are nationally and internationally known artists in this show. And it's so cool because they put this little note by your art that said, this is where to meet this artist and see more of their work. Okay, I've got 3 months. I can probably do 10 to 12 pieces of art in 3 months. I have to work outside. And it's December. KJ, did you forget you live in Montana? And I found that working outside in sub-freezing temperatures with my bare hands handling rocks and powders and lighters and my papers, it was all a detail compared to learning to let go of controlling the outcome of what I was creating. I had to let the outcome change with any given explosion that mishapped or was a mistake or wasn't what I expected. That forced me to reevaluate my expectations. Was I going for something that was really particularly, I had decided on it here and it had to be that at the end of the process? Or was it more about enjoying learning this new process and exploring what I could do with it? And the really cool thing that happened, once I let go of hanging on to that control so tightly and I got out of my own way, all of the mistakes and all of those mishaps became my mentors. They literally taught me how to ask the questions that I needed to learn to create by exploding gunpowder to burn paper. All of those how could, what if, and why did questions taught me how to do this. And it went something like this as I was working with masks and how to cover up part of the paper to keep some areas white. I thought, well, maybe if I make smaller burns and multiple burns, I could get a little bit more ideas and definitions. And when I thought about that mask, it's cut in the shape of a mountain range. I thought, well, what if I actually burn the torn piece of paper that's in the shape of the mountain range? And then I can stick it on top of another piece of paper that's the sky. And then that made me think again, well, what if I even bring that layer out further away from the sky to give it even more dimension? And at this point, I had already figured out how to mix up fireworks with the gunpowder to get color to burn in my artwork. Recently, I asked, can I replicate a specific landscape by exploding gunpowder and fireworks to burn paper? This is Monkey Face, an icon in Smith Rock State Park. And with a lot of chaos, a lot of patience, and a few new techniques, this is what I created. This is where I have to say, don't try this at home. That's my disclaimer. I have safety measures and safety gear set up to prevent what you're about to see from becoming a 911 call. I've got a really intricate layer of a bouquet of flowers and gunpowder and fireworks laid in. It's sandwiched between two pieces of paper, covered up with rocks and boards. I've got my phone here because this is going to be cool. I'm going to video it. I've got my lighter here. I hit the lighter. It sizzles and burns the edge of the paper. Take all the rocks off, all the paper off. What did I do wrong? What was a mistake? Readjust things, cover it all back up again. Second time, here we go. Same thing. Burns the edge of the paper. Fine. I'm going to get to work this time. And the third time, now I was standing here with my phone like this, my hand like this. It's pretty amazing how many thoughts can go through a human mind in a very few seconds. Did I just set my studio on fire? Where's my fire extinguisher? I've got the phone if I need to call 911. And I'm beginning to think, okay, nothing's really on fire. I'm so thankful that I didn't have to call my children from the ER. My phone is still working. There's no hair left on my arm, but that's a detail. And by the time I get to the whoop at the end, that's where it was my safety measures worked. This could be really cool. I uncovered it. And this is the top piece of paper. I brushed the debris off, and this was the bottom piece of paper. I had a killer new technique. It rarely ever happens. This one still, I ask those how could, what if, and why did questions. It still challenges me. This was a different kind of challenge. I wanted to create a large-ish piece of artwork. This is a drawing from my sketchbook. The artwork is 3 feet tall. I wanted it to be something that had fluid and structured lines and shapes that interacted and wove in together to create depth and dimension. I really wanted it to be something that you could visually meander through. And all of the how could, what if, and why did questions came together like this. The grid structure over large areas, the curved and curled edges to show depth and dimension, weaving in all of those circles to make them look like they're moving in and out of that grid pattern, an organic, mountainish, oceanish look that spills into a vast white area where linking circles connect all of those elements together. And to close my story, I would like for you to come to my kitchen with me and pretend that you're involved in a conversation with me, because I fully believe that curiosity is the foundation for creativity. So we're in my kitchen, and I get a drop of oil on a piece of paper. Wow. Have you ever noticed that oil makes paper translucent? And maybe your reply is something like, wow, what could you do with translucent paper? What could I do with translucent art? And because of our conversation, it led to light sculptures. You never know where one idea or a little curiosity may lead. So I encourage you, allow yourself to find something that you enjoy. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Ask those how could, what if, and why-did questions. Be curious and explore it, especially when mistakes arise. Who knows? You may be surprised when you share your ideas what is sparked. Thank you.